Well, welcome to winter. February has been pretty active recently in terms of wintry setups. This February looks to be no different. We have a few snow chances coming up. I'm meteorologist Tanis Leach going to be talking to you about these snow chances and a little bit on the Coast Range rain shadow, which becomes important for the type of system we are seeing. First off, I do have a channel note, and that is PNW Weather 101 Episode 5 will be delayed until at least after this is over, maybe a week beyond that too. Also note on this dry stretch because we did set a record. No measurable rain for 18 days. This is a record long in January. This beats the old record of 17 days from January of 1948. January had almost 3 inches of rain. Final totals are not available at the time that I am recording this video. Most of that fell during the first week, with another 3/4 of an inch falling last night. The driest occurred in 1985 with 6/100 of an inch of rain. Also, as a side note, this is the driest month that was the driest month outside of the summer months, which was June, July, August, and September. So January could have been a lot drier than it was, and these numbers are for PDX. National Weather Service watches and warnings. The Willamette Valley lowlands and southwest Washington lowlands are under no watch, warning, or advisory. Foothills, however, in the Cascades are under a winter weather advisory, and the Coast Range, at least the northern Coast Range and southern Washington Coast Range, is under a winter storm warning. A winter weather advisory is also in effect for areas closer to the Puget Sound, as about 1 to 2 inches over the next couple of days of snow is expected there. Though similarly to our region, it is going to be a little bit more showery in nature. So, what's causing this more showery in nature system? Well, it's what we like to call a BC slider system. And as the name suggests, a low pressure system slides south along the British Columbia coast. And by Monday, this will be off the coast of Vancouver Island or out straight from the Strait of Juan de Fuca. Before this low pressure system, I'm expecting this to take a little bit of a loop around of the far East Pacific, never really going too far out into the ocean to cause our precipitation chances to fall to zero, however. I also expect that low pressure system to loop back towards our coast by Tuesday evening, and some models want to stall this low pressure system on Tuesday evening, as the low pressure system is causing colder air to funnel in from British Columbia into the Columbia Basin, like this. That can cause a easterly gradient to come up through the Columbia River Gorge, and as a result, would increase the chances for snow in the Portland metro area for Tuesday night into Wednesday morning. I'll go over that specific setup in tomorrow's video if that still holds. Because of how far out it is, details I am expecting to change from now till then. General timeline for the snow levels. Today I'm expecting snow levels to mainly remain above 1,200 feet. Tomorrow I'm expecting snow levels to start around 500 feet in the Portland area, probably closer to about 700 feet in the southern Willamette Valley, and then rising throughout the day. Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, however, I do expect those snow levels to start at the valley floor before rising throughout the day. Though, because of how showery in nature the ABC slider is, that is going to cause the precipitation to wrap around that low pressure system before crashing in to our coast. It doesn't have a lot of time to pick up a lot of moisture, which is why it is showery in nature. Because of that, it can cause areas that receive those rain cells and rain bands to receive a quick inch or two of snow, while other areas receive hardly any accumulation. So as a result, a trace to 1 inch is going to be widespread on any given day, though many locations will not see any accumulations. This is also a setup where PDX proper may receive just a trace or no snow at all, while Hillsborough may be a little bit more favored to receive even 2 inches of rain because they're a little bit less rain shadowed than PDX is. Because of how the snow is going to fall, at least until Tuesday, I'm expecting minimal road impacts on the morning commute and pretty much nothing on the evening commute. Detailed timeline starts in tomorrow's video, and then also a BC slider generally does not produce any freezing rain. Now, for anyone who wants to see snow, showery in nature is normally not a good sign for the Portland metro area. As a note, the lowest levels of the Portland metro area along the banks of the Willamette and the Columbia are near sea level. Most of the suburbs are located at about 200 feet. Eugene is located at 432 feet for their downtown region. So, the Coast Range in the northern portion is a little bit taller and a little bit wider than portions in the central Coast Range, even though the tallest peak, Mary's Peak, is just to the southwest of Corvallis. So what the rain shadow is as the system tries to get over a mountain range, as that cloud lifts over it, it'll wring out its moisture a lot like what you would do with a washcloth as you're trying to dry it. As a result, there is less moisture as it's able to get over that, and the effect of it is proportional to how tall and how wide the mountain range is. So as a result, you're going to get a bigger effect going over the northern coast range than you would in the central and coast ranges. So as a result, that means the rain shadow effect in the Portland metro area is greater than in Eugene. There's also a more minor rain shadow effect over the Chehalem Mountains and the West Hills as well, which makes PDX pretty much the driest location in the Willamette Valley. Now, straight on to what I'm expecting over the next 7 days, and we'll start in the Southern Valley here. Today and tomorrow, showers and sun breaks primarily, though I do expect a rain snow mix, at least in some areas in the morning, even though I'm not explicitly showing that graphic. Monday, I do expect more widespread flurries to maybe half of an inch to an inch on the ground in some isolated areas down there. Tuesday and Wednesday, similar deal. All 3 days have transitioning into a rain snow mix likely, while Thursday you transition into dry weather, and that continues into Friday with high temperatures holding right around 40 degrees and low temperatures dipping into the 20s. Portland metro area, today I have showers and sun breaks. Tomorrow, rain snow mix, probably some sun breaks mixed in, though less so than the southern Willamette Valley. And then Monday, snow showers in the morning, transitioning into a rain snow mix later in the day for the lowest elevations. Is with a high of 39 degrees. Tuesday, things get interesting because, as I explained, we're starting to get that gorge outflow, and at least during the PM hours, it is possible that we could get what's called a convergence zone to form somewhere in the northern Willamette Valley as the low pressure system tries to bring quote unquote warmer and moist southerly winds meeting colder, drier easterly winds. This was the setup that caused the February 2023 event, and I'm talking the overall broad pattern. This is not a completely identical setup because the low path is going to be different than what occurred in February of 2023. If one were to form, I would expect that to form near the Chehalem Mountains due to the low placement. If it's off the coast, that does favor the Chehalem Mountains. I'll get into more details on why in tomorrow's video. Also, if one were to form, expect higher totals in a narrow 10 to 20 mile wide band. How much snow would be dependent on moisture, which I don't really like forecasting more than about 48 to 72 hours out for systems more showery in nature, or like a BC slider. So back to the 7-day forecast. If that were to happen, snow showers will decrease Wednesday throughout the day, while Thursday, a tapering snow flurries into dry weather, and that continues on Friday as low temperatures dip into the mid 20s as the east wind dies off at least a little bit, allowing low temperatures to get a little bit colder. Due to the fluidity of the setup, I am not putting snow chances as high as they normally would be for me using the snowstorm graphic rather than snow showers. One last thing I'd like to look at, and this is more of a look ahead into the rest of February, and I generally do not like to hedge my bets unless if I'm not confident in something but really want to get information out there. And when I was looking at my top analogs in both my October and December winter weather outlooks, they were pretty split on whether January was going to be a better month or February, excluding the first 5 days where there was numerous analogs that showed January plus the first 5 days of February having active weather. There was none that had a split between, say, January 20th and February 20th. 1886 to 87 has performed remarkably well so far and was a top analog in both my October and December outlooks. Also, fun fact, I don't normally look at what happens in the rest of the country because I prefer looking at large scale oceanic oscillations for my long range winter forecast, though I did find it fun to see that a snowstorm did occur on the Gulf Coast in January of 1887, including Pensacola, Florida, receiving, I think, the most snow in that snowstorm as well. Very similar to what happened this time around, at least on the eastern lobe of that. Winter was also a dud for cold and snow, but progressively getting colder before February. Also, in terms of similar patterns, there were some warm, dry days in December, which is pretty unusual. But once the clock hit February, it was the coldest February on record in downtown Portland. The first third was an Arctic blast, while the 9th through the 25th was more marginally cold setups, more closely to what we are experiencing here. However, 24 of the 28 days were 5 degrees or more below average, using the averages used then. The last 3 days of the month, however, were 3 of these 4 days. And it is possible, based on something that I am seeing, that we could be experiencing a inverse February 1887, where we get the more marginal setups to start, then the Arctic blast later. And that is due to the stratospheric polar vortex. So, it has been very strong this entire winter, but as you can see here, that polar vortex is finally expected to take a hit in the upper levels of the atmosphere right around the 10th of February. So, because of that split, that increases the odds for an Arctic blast to descend into the PNW, even if that stratospheric lobe doesn't go over the PNW. There's also the tropospheric polar vortex, which for a while now has been decoupled from the stratospheric polar vortex. That's how the eastern half of the country was able to get as cold as it got recently, including the historic snowstorm along the Gulf Coast. If this were to happen, timing would likely be week 3 through 4 of February. So we'll see what happens in the upcoming weeks. Also, as a side note, the European ensembles, which for those who don't know is 50 runs of the European model with slightly different initial conditions, shows that the average high temperature does not exceed 40 degrees across those 50 runs for each day for the duration of the model run, which is the next 15 days, starting on Monday. So that's very unusual because normally after day 10, models tend to revert to quote unquote more climatological conditions, which are high temperatures are normally around the low 50s this time of year. So that's going to be it for this video. Hopefully you all are staying safe out there, and I will catch you all tomorrow. So until then, take care.